when that happened in '08, could you share with what percentage of your revenue per month went away?
Oh, probably 80%. It
Oh
was,
my Lord.
yeah, within a year. We were at the height of 2008. We were doing an amazing numbers. And then by the middle to late 2009, it was crippling. And
Ooh.
we had a lot of office space and we had a lot of expenses and we had a lot of overhead. And I think one of my mistakes was not pulling out sooner, downsizing. A lot of colleagues downsized, and I just kept having this hope that things were going to get back to the way they were. And we live and learn. So,
Right. Hello, folks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Revenue Playbook Chronicles. I am your host, Gene Lytle. I have my awesome guest today is Renee Miller. She is the founder of the Miller Group since 1990. She is one of the first women-owned agencies in Los Angeles. And she also has a new tool that she's working with called Street Pulse. It is a new tool that helps clients quickly and affordably get clarity on a marketing issue that they may be having at this time. Renee, hi, welcome. How are you and where are you calling from?
hi, Jean. Great to see you again. I'm calling from Los Angeles, and it's wonderful to be on Revenue Playbook with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I remember when we spoke last time that you had quite of a journey coming from where you started and you being one of the first women owned agencies. I'm sure had some struggles at first, maybe. So I'd love for you to kind of get into it. Tell me how you got started and what bring us kind of up to today.
Thank you. Sounds good. So I was always came from a very entrepreneurial family. My father had his own business. My grandfather had his own business, and actually two grandfathers, uncles. It's so we're a family of entrepreneurs. And as the
Sweet.
oldest child, my dad really encouraged me to do something on my own. Came out of a journalism background. I started my career as a journalist, left that business, went into marketing for healthcare, where I spent 2.5 years at one of the largest hospitals in Southern California working in marketing. And afterwards, I went out on my own doing freelance PR, believe it or not, and built an agency, sold that. And then in, I guess, 1989 or 90, I was freelancing for a large insurance company, Transamerica Insurance, and my clients doing copywriting. And my client said to me, we need a boutique agency for one of our divisions. Do you know anybody who can help us? And I said, I can do that. And I honestly never ran an agency. I didn't really know how to do it. But she said, send me a proposal, which I did. And I figured it out pretty quickly. And I ended up meeting someone who taught me how to run an agency, who I'm still in touch with today, who I value a lot because he was a great teacher, a great mentor. He's still in the business. He's one of the best out there. And I had to learn from the seat of my pants, so to speak. I was taking classes at night on how to be a creative director and then working during the day to grow the business, find a space. At that years ago, I had to become an official agency. Today, it's not the case, but in other words, to get the 10% or 15% media commission that I would pass along to my client, the media wanted to know that I was an official agency. And so quickly I became an agency and got a DBA and did all this as quickly as possible. I spent a lot of time on business development. It was really, I think, after about a year or two that I ended up hiring people and just growing very carefully and cautiously. Transamerica stayed as a client for several years. In fact, I'm still in touch with the gal who was the marketing director at the time.
Oh, how
And
nice.
yeah, and just focused on giving challenger brands and mid-sized companies a outrageously good experience. Most of the agencies at the time were very large, big multinational ad agencies, part of a bigger company. And there were a lot of independent clients that just needed someone to listen to them and take care of them. And so there's a real niche for agencies my size. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right, bring in the right people and do good work, build a reputation, make sure clients are happy. And that's at that time, Gene, there was no internet.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah. The way to solicit business was through phone calls, snail mail.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And direct mail, and then trade publications, getting your name in trade publications. So we had a lot of stunts that we did. We got talked about a lot. I did things to get our name out there. We got into reviews for large pieces of business with major national agencies that people had heard of. And the takeaway was, who is this Miller Group? Never heard of them. Who are they? So I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And
Right.
it was a lot of fun. It was very stressful. And we did some fabulous work. We won a lot of awards. And I met a lot of incredible people along the way. And it's been a very interesting challenge. I've pivoted more than probably a dozen times, and I've seen people come in and out of the industry. If you have the stomach for it, you stay, and if you don't, you say, I'm done, I'm calling it quits now. So many changes. And even today with AI now, that's a new way of doing business, and really understanding and learning and bringing in a team that's like-minded. I would say to your clients and your listeners, if you're building a business, find people who are like-minded, find people who have complementary skills, and people who stand up to you and tell you what they think, people who are able to make decisions independently but not overrule you. There's a fine balance, as you know, with
Right.
organizations. And have one person who's been with me over 20 years. A lot of people stay. Another person who's been with me for almost 5 years now, another one 3 years. And so we build it as though it were a family unit, and everybody's accountable. I don't keep track of their hours. I trust them to do what's right, and the client feels the same way. I partner with agencies that have a specific skill. Clients like that because then they've got somebody who's got experience in their category, and it's been an incredible journey.
So
And
what's interesting about, as I'm thinking about you talking about your journey, you have seen so many changes in this industry. So before we get to that part of it, I know you started with a family of entrepreneurs, right? Was there any worry or being scared a little bit of actually starting your own on your own, or did it come natural because you had enough supporters around you?
that's a great question. It was circumstance the first time. I was working for the hospital for 2.5 years, got recruited into a corporate job that was so not me. And after a week, we parted company, and I said, oh gosh, what am I gonna do next? I went to work for a boutique design firm doing
Okay.
business development. And the owner said, you can do business development, and then all of the PR work that comes in, you can do that, and the copywriting. And I never really paid much attention. I was pretty naive. I was still in my 20s. And the compensation wasn't what I expected. And I kept thinking, geez, if I can do this for him, I could probably do it for myself. I'm not competing. He's not interested in the PR aspect. He's only interested in design. And so I went into him one day and said, you know what? I want to do PR, and I'm going to open an office across the hall from you. I'll continue to do the copywriting that you ask for, but I'm going to start my own PR firm. So I did that out of necessity for a couple years. And between pitching stories for clients and pitching business for my company, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. Yeah. And I sold that company to a boutique marketing agency who I worked for about almost a year. And then I said, I want to freelance. I want to try that. And then as a freelancer, when Transamerica asked me, do I know anyone? I said, sure, I can help you with that. It's that can do attitude.
Right.
And if you're, you know what, Gene, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not. There's no ever there, as you know, there's never a right time. It's just when an opportunity comes your way, do you take it or do you say no, thank you? And some people just don't have the stomach for it. As if I were in corporate America, I would be making 10 times probably what I'm making now. But there's a certain excitement when you are an entrepreneur and things are going well. And when things aren't going well, we do what all good entrepreneurs do is A, we get advice, and then B, we pivot and we look
Exactly.
where is the opportunity now. Entrepreneurs we're scrappy, we're agile, we do what we need to do to survive.
It's funny you say that because I just remember my wife and I, we started the printing side in 2004, and we just kept telling each other, we just don't say no. That
Right.
word, we just, if we don't know, we just going to go find out,
Exactly.
figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so we never say no. And then you said something to the fact that when opportunities come to you, a lot of people will say, well, you got lucky. And that's not that. It's putting yourself in the position to have that opportunity at that right time and being able to say yes at that right time. And I think that you said it exactly right the way you did. Perfect.
Thank you for acknowledging that. And also it's being tenacious and persistent and not taking no for an answer. When we hear as entrepreneurs, no, most of us hear not right now. And we always stay in touch because you just don't know what will happen next. To your point, also, the lucky factor. I had the privilege of sharing space with somebody who's a colleague I've known for over 25 years. And he and I are constantly seeing who's going to stay the latest, who comes in the earliest.
Right.
And I said to him, you know what? You and I, people will say when we hit it big, boy, those two are lucky, but you and I know we are here every single day putting out, coming up with ideas, talking to people, offering our services, being of service. It's not luck, it's tenacity and persistence.
People don't realize that luck comes with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly.
No doubt. No doubt. So
Exactly.
here's the other thing. So now we understand, okay, how you got started. But now let's talk about I guess the first thing is just the creation of the internet. How did you go about it? Did you have to wait for a while? Were you maybe pushing forward and being on the forefront of that? Or tell me how that was, because nobody knew what the internet was. And a lot of people still don't know what the internet does, right?
Yeah. And the people who said, "Oh, this is going to go away,"
Right.
they ended up going away.
Yep.
Do you remember the dial-up? Because you'd sit there and you go, "All right, come on already, come on already." I just jumped right in. I joined. There were a couple of groups that formed in Los Angeles. I would go to all of the events. And, by that time, I think, in my 30s, like probably mid to late 30s. And all these people who were going to these events were in their 20s. And I felt so old at the time.
Right.
I just kept showing up and trying to figure it out. And that's it, like just being at the forefront. You have to know more than your clients know because you want to guide them. What
Right.
does this mean? I remember there's what it's called the Wayback Machine. It used to provide you with more information. I remember our first website, it was functional, but if you look at that now, it was like a basically brochureware,
Right.
right? And how different things are today. And, I started off on a PC, but I immediately went to Mac because I identified as a creative, followed Steve Jobs, read his books, listened to him. The guy was just brilliant. And what a marketer. I think the best thing is being around people who are making a difference and who are breaking tradition, breaking the mold, listening, finding out, showing up, going to events. It's the same thing, Jean. You know that.
Yeah.
I had a great experience today with a gal who is an expert on SEO. For the last 18 months, I've been trying to find the right search engine optimization company. And within 45 minutes, she gave me more clarity than I've had from anybody in the last few years. And the light bulb went off and she explained everything. She said, I'm just going to teach you. I said, no, I don't want to learn that. I want you to do it. So, whatever, just send me a proposal, whatever it is. You were referred to me. I trust you. I know you know what you're doing. Because I spent a lot of time researching and I knew that the other folks didn't know what they were doing. So when you get that clarity and the light bulb goes off, it's from months of reading, months of listening, months of showing up at conferences and webinars and on podcasts and getting to know the experts. And then eventually, like I said, the light bulb goes off and you say, ah, now I understand.
Very nice. In fact, I might hit you up for that referral because I feel I'm pretty decent at SEO for me and my clients, but I'm at that stage where I like doing this. I like the podcasting. I like
Yeah.
meeting people and connecting people. And I kind of want to get out of that role, but you need to find somebody, like you said, like-hearted, like-minded, and can do the job properly, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to get you up for that referral here coming up soon.
Absolutely. I'm happy to, you know what, too? She wasn't, what I loved about it, she wasn't selling me. She was educating me and she explained and she said, you know what, you can do it on your own. I said, I don't, that's why I said, I don't want to do it on my own. But she didn't care. Like she just knows her stuff. And that's when you know you've got a really good partner. Same thing with, I was partnering on a new business venture this week and I found a boutique agency like mine, like minded women owned agency. And she just knew so much about the category. And it was such a pleasure to part. Whether we get it or not isn't important. What's important is that I've got a partner now I can trust and feel good about. And if this client hires us, they've got a lifelong group that will give of ourselves and be there for them and know what we're doing. And that's my goal, like I said, giving an outrageously good experience. Be clients and people in general, we all want to be heard. We all want to be feel like we're being listened to. And I think today with AI and with social and with everything out there, there's so many channels and we're constantly on our computers, on our phones.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. A lot of
Noise, thank you. We don't listen. We've forgotten how to listen. And clients just want to feel like they're being heard. We all want to feel like we're being heard. We all want to feel like we matter.
there's something to be said because there's a lot of, let's take SEO for example. There's a lot of companies that can do SEO, but if you're not resonating with that client, if you're not listening to that client and understanding where that client wants to go, you're not going to give them the service that somebody else like yourself might give them. And so that makes the difference. You know what I mean? Is how you respond and talk with your client. It's very, very important.
You're absolutely right.
Yes, very much. Okay, so you brought us up to where the internet came in. Could you put your finger on another major change that you had to go through prior to
Absolutely.
COVID?
Well, even before COVID, the 2008 Great Recession,
Yes, yes, yes.
that we had five ongoing clients, and one of them was a bank. And you remember what happened with the banking industry. And they were a regional bank that became one of the examples that closed. That
Mm.
was devastating because that client we'd been with them for about 5 years. And the woman who was the CEO, that bank was her baby. And it was really hard to watch. And then it was almost like a domino. One client after another just started cutting their budgets and cutting out the cutting out marketing.
Do you mind me asking this question? And you don't have to answer it. When that happened in '08, could you share with what percentage of your revenue per month went away?
Probably 80%. It
Oh
was,
my Lord.
yeah, within a year. We were at the height of 2008, we were doing amazing numbers. And then by the middle to late 2009, it was crippling. And
Ooh,
we had a lot of office space, and we had a lot of expenses, and we had a lot of overhead. And I think one of my mistakes was not pulling out sooner, downsizing. A lot of colleagues downsized, and I just kept having this hope that things were going to get back to the way they were. And we live and learn. So
right.
that was a very one of the most traumatic experiences. I think COVID for my company, we were already virtual. So my team, we were, in fact, we left WebEx about 3 months before COVID hit because they weren't performing the way we were hoping, and we went on Zoom. So when everybody was shuttered, we knew exactly what to do. And at the time, business also slowed to a drastic halt. The good news is that we knew a lot about healthcare. I told you my background in hospital healthcare, and I
Right.
had done years of experience. So we had a lot of clients who wanted to do testing. We had one client that was doing vaccinations for the
Okay.
underserved, and they needed help. They had a government contract to do that, so we helped them. And then we had another client that was doing testing to make sure people didn't have COVID. And so we found ourselves in a pretty good shape.
Okay.
And so that one wasn't, believe it or not, as devastating. But again, I think part of it is as you grow older, you start to see things and you start to pivot faster.
Right.
AI,
Exactly.
between AI and the LA wildfires, my home and my office were affected by those wildfires. So
Oh no.
I spent 9 months outside my home in temporary housing. My community was devastated, and we're starting to rebuild, but it's 18 months later. It's slow going. So and then AI and the economy's slowing. So all of these things you can look at and say, boy, woe is me, or just say, you know what, I get a chance to experience this and I'm going to make the best of it. And what is the universe telling me to do next? How can I be, just asking the question, how can I be of service? And I
Right.
think the answers come when we ask the right questions.
So we'll go back to '08 first. On '08, 80% of your revenue, which is tragic. A lot of people probably would have closed. Tell me about your mind frame on, okay, we're going to push through, we're going to make this thing happen. However, obviously the natural drive of being an entrepreneur, I can already tell that. But is there any other special nuggets that help push you to keep going? And how long did it take before you were back on a halfway decent level?
Well, we were lucky because it didn't hit us till 2000, close to the end of 2009, when it was
Okay.
already, we didn't experience any of that till 2009. And it was a good 4 years. I had to get out of my office space, which we did. We had a long-term contract. I got out of that, moved to a much smaller space, had to let go some people. It was very, they're like family. So it was an emotional release. And I think part of it was ego driven and not letting go. So learning how to actually let go. And it hit me in the pocket. It hit me financially, draining a lot of resources, but it was a learning experience. You talk to entrepreneurs, the money comes and the money goes, but what
Right.
what really is important is your time, and the experiences that you go through, and hopefully you just don't repeat it again.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when my wife and I started. So I kept a regular job while we started our printing company. And man, we were doing it right. It was going great. I said, man, we made $10,000 this month. All right. But then the next month we gave it all back.
Mm,
We're like, what happened?
yeah.
You know what I mean? People
Exactly.
think it's glamorous that, hey, you make 10 grand, but you don't realize there's several months in a row that you can end up giving it all back and then some.
Exactly. So you know your how it is, and you know that there's a special kind of person who can stick to it. And so smart of you to stay with your job because you had the insight to see that you needed revenue, and you didn't just get cocky and say, "Oh, this is great, 10,000. I'll just say goodbye to my company."
Right,
You stuck
exactly.
with it until you saw that it was time to move on. A
I
lot of
think the good
people don't
Lord
do that.
let me know that, hey, not yet. It's not time.
Yeah, yeah,
So tell me about when you were outside of your house. I mean, now it gets personal because messing with your business is one thing. Messing with your home is a whole new ballgame.
yeah.
Tell me about that scenario. And first of all, was your house okay?
Thank you for asking. We had fire damage, and we were one of the homes that survived, and we needed a lot of remediation. So we needed to be out. We're in an area of the Pacific Palisades where utilities are all underground. So we never lost our power, but it
Okay.
wasn't healthy for us to move back. So we needed to find temporary housing. The biggest trauma was dealing with insurance.
That
And
was going
here,
to be my next question because there's a lot of people that lost their insurance and they're probably still fighting with them. So, how was that with you?
well, that's where I had to sort of take my eye off the business for a while because we needed to keep going. We needed to figure out where we were going to live. Imagine if your entire community just burned down and
Oh,
you're like, literally, we were literally running away from fire the day that happened, we live in an area where there's one road in and one road out and an emergency road, and the emergency road was the first thing that caught fire.
oh,
So people
oh.
were just we're so lucky that there weren't many deaths. I mean, it could have been so crazy. So, but we had to hire a public adjuster. It became abundantly clear to my husband and I, after doing a lot of research, we couldn't do it on our own. And she was a lawyer and she was brilliant. She had a ton of experience. She had worked for one of the large insurance agencies, so she knew what was going on.
She knew what they were going to plan.
Yeah, and every time she would write a letter, they would come back with something and she'd say, "This is not ethical. This isn't right." We ended up going to the insurance commissioner of California. That didn't work. It was overwhelming. Imagine in our community alone, there were 7,000 people. And then in the Altadena community, another 7,000. So it
Oh,
was overwhelming for insurance. It was overwhelming from the insurance commissioner. But what I did was I stepped up my efforts and I did a letter writing campaign to the president of which, and I don't want to mention names, but my insurance company. And then when that didn't work, I went ahead and commented on his posts on social because he was talking a lot about trust. And eventually, someone from the organization said, "I'm now authorized to give you your settlement." But we're talking about probably 7 or 8 months before.
yeah. How do you
And
get
then,
those 7, 8 months back?
yeah. And then we had to figure out how are we going to do everything that needs to get done with the amount of money that we have. And that's a challenge a lot of people are going through now. Many people are having to go out of pocket to do things. It's an eye opener. It really is. And talk about listening to your customers. We have been with this insurance company 31 years. Everything is in our car, our home, everything is with one company. And you'd think that they would be all over. How can we help you? We
They
really
don't
want to be
care.
there for you. That didn't happen.
We become a number when it costs them money.
Right. And you know what? All these insurance companies spend tens of millions of dollars a year on advertising to get new customers, but they don't treat their existing customers. If they treated their existing customers with respect and took that money and put it into customer relations, it would be a whole different story.
Do you end up losing your insurance after that, or
Thank goodness, no. Yeah. So
that's because I know there's a lot of people without insurance now
I know. I
having
know.
to go. I mean, certain companies are pulling out of California
Yeah.
or have, and people are left with whatever's left.
Horror stories, Gene. I can tell you just so many. We have friends. The husband had a stroke. Another one is suffering severely from PTSD. I mean, so many stories that you hear from people. The effects will go on for many years. There are a lot of people in their 70s and 80s who just, one lady built her dream home with her husband 10 years ago. She said, I can't do this again. So,
Wow,
yeah.
man, our prayers go out to all of them.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hoping that during that period of time you had hired somebody that was able to help you with your agency, so where you didn't have to spend as much time with that. Is that a true statement?
I wish it was.
Oh no,
I was,
I
things were,
didn't mean to open that
oh,
can
no,
of
no,
worms.
things had slowed down,
Okay.
and I had a few people working for me, but I was clearly the business development person and the one in charge. And that we had some wonderful work back in 24, just two fabulous clients, and things when it happened in the beginning of 2025, I focused on,
What you had to.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And now, you know what? It's 18 months later. I've pivoted and now I'm working even harder to get new clients and to go back to the old clients that we work with to share with them what we're doing, how we can support them. And gosh darn, I think I've got about 7 to 8 good more years or more, 7 to 8 more years I'd like to do this. And that's what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on finding some wonderful clients that I can provide fabulous service and help them grow their business, listen to them, come up with ideas, give them some clarity. And I'm meeting some wonderful people along the way. I've joined some different organizations and listening, doing a lot of listening.
So talk about getting clients. What is your perfect client? If you had to draw them up on the board, this is my perfect client, what would that be?
A client who knows their business, who knows how to work with consultants, who listens, who's collaborative. It's a relationship and give and take. And a client who can define their problem, who's got some clarity. It's not just about executing an idea, but understanding. The best clients have come to us and said, here's the issue at stake. Can you help us figure this out? Those are the best clients. And they're patient and they are supportive. We're supportive back to them.
Do you have an amount that a business should already know that they need to put toward marketing? Because too many times in today's market, I'll talk to a company and how much do you have available for market? Oh, I don't have a budget.
Yeah.
Is there something that you look for in a company that you're looking to help? What kind of budget do you think they should have ready? Not that you're going to use it all, but just the fact that they have that money available to put toward marketing.
I'll give you a good example. We've had calls in the past from people who have put most of their money, if they're launching a new product into market, most of that money has gone into research and development, manufacturing, distribution. And when we ask them, what do you have to spend on marketing? It's not enough to do a launch. So in some cases, we just have to say no because we don't want to give them bad advice. And if I love to work miracles, but there are cases where you just know that it's not going to be enough. And I'd rather walk away than have an unhappy client. I want to manage their expectations. So a client who's getting ready to launch, especially into whether it's direct to consumer or in retail, they need enough money. It's not enough to have a great product. You have to be able to let the customer know. Remember, if you have a fabulous product on the shelves at Walmart, but nobody's ever heard of it. You're responsible. You're paying slotting allowances. You need to have enough that to get somebody to go out and buy that product. And whether it's social media, there's so many channels right now. People say, we say, what are your plans? What are you doing? Well, I'm running social media ads, and that can get expensive too. So really figuring out who is that audience, what's the message that we need to convey, and what's going to get them to say yes to this product. So those are the things. And how much money do you have to sustain advertising?
Right. Because it doesn't do any good if you got 30 days.
Exactly.
It's like,
And
okay, you're going to waste that 30 days because it's going to take longer.
right, people want to do, well, let's just do influencer. How much do you know about influencer? A lot of times they don't know enough. Or we'll ask them, they say, we don't have a lot of awareness. How much awareness have you measured? Most of the time they say, no, we have no idea how much market share we have. That's problematic. If you don't know, how do you know if it's going to be successful or not? Customer acquisition. We need to know how many customers you have currently and how many do you need to get. And then we can decide, is there enough, how much revenue costs per acquisition do we have to work with? And if it's $1.67 and your product is $60, it's really unrealistic.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, do you guys use AI yourselves or for your own business, or do you also use it for your clients? If so, how? And if not, why?
Yes, we do use it a lot, and we started using it years ago. There's a bunch of different programs we use for the best use of AI at this point. I know a lot of people, we use it for, I use it as a sounding board. I use it as an editor. I use it as for research. When it comes to creative, there's nothing like a brilliant creative director. AI is just not there yet. It's got ideas, but it's scrubbing the website. It's scrubbing existing ideas. So I find too that the more specific information you give AI, the better the results. And I write something in advance and I'll ask AI to fine tune it because it feels like I can tell right away when I get an email written by AI, it goes right into the trash. And it usually starts with quick question, or can we jump on a call, or I know you're busy. I don't even read the next sentence. It's
Got it.
just so it's understanding how to use it and the limitations. I've got one AI, photography AI, stock photo AI, and I only use it for blog posts when I know that I can't find the right photograph. So it's easy because I'll spell it out. It's never what I would love to have, but it's better than some of what's already out there. And it speeds things up.
Right. That's a
It's
big thing.
great. Yeah, it's great for and I will be guilty of saying I could use it so much better to refine my systems, speeding things up. I don't do that, and I want to learn how to do that. I've even taken some courses and I haven't put my energy into it. I will at some point, but that's a great way to use AI. The research has been phenomenal. It's really helped. And when I was stuck, I'd say to AI, help me figure out. So again, it's a good sounding board.
It makes a lot of sense. Now, you said 7, 8 years, you're looking to maybe do something different with the business. So, what's next for Renee?
Well,
What's
so
next for the business? And do you plan on exiting fully, or do you plan on doing something totally different?
well, I'd love to get this Street Pulse kicked off, and I have talked to a number of people, and it's a tool, a research video tool where we talk to consumers, get a sense, because a lot of clients will say, well, we've talked to our team and this is what we think is our problem, but did you talk to the one person that is your customer? Did you talk to them and hear from them what they think the problem is? And this is a way for companies to quickly, cost efficiently get some pulse research and hear what customers are saying, whether they're launching a new product into market, a new service, new pricing. They have an issue with customer satisfaction. It's a quick way to learn and to pivot. So that's something I'm working on launching through the Miller Group. The other thing, Jean, I'd love to be doing is public speaking. I just joined Toastmasters last
Oh,
year
how cool.
and I'm loving it. And I'd be thrilled to go around the world and do public speaking. I've got a book in me. I'm not sure if it's fiction or nonfiction. I don't know where it's going, but I've got a whole story. And so, yeah, those are the things that I'm interested in, and just helping people in whatever way I can be of service. That's what I like doing.
So first, the book, when you're ready to launch, I want you back on here so we
Okay,
can talk about the book, whether it's fiction or non.
sure.
On the tool for the pulse, what was that called? The street pulse.
Street Pulse.
Is that something a agency would use for their client, or is that something that the client would use in help with the agency? How?
Great question. So we can actually work with agencies and provide that service. We're happy to do it, white label it. The other thing is that clients can just hire us directly. A lot of the multinationals already know they've got so many resources, but mid-sized challenger brands have a limited staff, they have a limited budget. A lot of times traditional research can be very costly, anywhere from, $20,000 to $50,000 with the client won't have the answers for 8 to 10 weeks, 8 to 12
Right.
weeks. This is information that can be delivered within about 3 weeks for, a nominal cost. And it's tiered up, it's a tiered approach. So if there is a client, even if it's a startup and they have the funds to say, hey, we just want to see if this is viable, before they spend tens of millions of dollars manufacturing something and then realize, wow, where was my head in this place?
Right.
I just got a loan, a 30-year loan, and now this is not working. Before they jump in, they can always hire us or even do it on their own and figure out. But so important to talk to that consumer, because the consumer will tell you, and it's knowing the questions to ask.
Yeah, that
This
makes a
isn't
lot of sense.
exactly, this is not customer satisfaction. This is much deeper than that. It's really listening and really hearing also what they're not saying in addition to what they are saying.
I will love to learn some more about that. So put me down as a demo at some point.
Sure.
Like to hear that because I'm sure that a lot of people that I come in touch with could be a good beneficiary of that.
That would be great. I'd love to share it with you.
So here's the time for my favorite question that I ask everybody. And I love the way different directions it goes. So if our listeners didn't get anything out of today's call, they got busy, they got, interrupted, whatever. But there's one specific message that you want to make sure clears through all the noise and gets to them and resonates with them. What would that be?
Let me think for a second. I think there's a difference between people who are positive and people who are negative, and people who are positive look at something and say, this happened for me, not to me. So if we can all come back with that kind of an attitude, and it's not easy. The other thing that is really important is putting ourselves in another person's shoes, because we presume we think we know, and we don't. So really being compassionate and understanding and hearing. Some of us have lost this listening skill. So it's really letting go of being right and just listening to what somebody has to say.
Very well said. Awesome. Very well. So this is the time where we thank everybody for watching another episode of Revenue Playbook Chronicles. Renee, thank you for being our guest. You have been awesome. I encourage everybody to look up the Miller Group out of Los Angeles and see if they can be helpful to you, and try their new Street Pulse tool. And if you like our content, please like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever hype they say they can do, whatever the button is next to you. It really helps us grow. And we thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.